October 25, 1983. Grenada. Two Marine AH-1T Cobras make their fifth attack run on Fort Frederick. On the ground, 4 manually aimed 1950s guns. No radar, no computers. 45 men. Both Cobras are down inside 2 minutes. 3 Marines dead. No fireball, no visible catastrophe. Rounds in, aircraft out. That is not how people imagine a 23mm cannon works. The kill mechanism that ends most aircraft hit by ground fire is not the round detonating. It is what the round does to the fuel. This is the physics of what actually happens when a 23mm round reaches an airframe, and why a single hit with no explosion can destroy a combat aircraft completely. A 186-gram steel projectile at 970 meters per second. A .50 caliber BMG exits the barrel at roughly the same velocity, but it weighs 46 grams. The 23mm round carries 4 times the mass. That difference translates to roughly 87,000 joules of kinetic energy per round, against the .50 cal's 18,000. Not a bigger bullet, a different category of event at the point of contact. The explosive filler in the HEI round is 17.3 grams, the weight of a U.S. quarter. The lethality is not in that number. It is in what 87,000 joules does when it arrives inside a confined space full of liquid. 3 kill mechanisms. Number 1. Fragmentation. On contact, the HEI round detonates and the steel casing ruptures into high-velocity fragments. The lethal area of a single 23mm HE shell in the open is 70.4 square meters. A cockpit occupies 2 to 3. The round does not need to hit the crew directly. It needs to detonate anywhere nearby. The incendiary component ignites fuel vapor, hydraulic lines, and wiring on contact. The tracer variant carries a burning element that acts as an ignition source even when the explosive does not trigger cleanly. This is the kill mechanism everyone expects. It is not the one that ends the most aircraft. 2. Hydrodynamic ram. Think about what a fuel tank actually is: a sealed container, mostly full of liquid, bolted to the structural spine of an aircraft. Now put 87,000 joules into it in under a millisecond. The projectile does not need to explode. It transfers kinetic energy into the fluid faster than the fluid can move, producing a pressure spike that can exceed 10,000 pounds per square inch locally. That pressure wave travels through the liquid at the speed of sound in that medium, far faster than explosive gas. It reaches the tank walls before the structure can respond. The walls rupture outward. The airframe, designed for aerodynamic load, tears under internal pressure it was never built to handle. Then a second event. The projectile leaves a growing vacuum cavity as it decelerates through the fluid. When that cavity collapses, it sends a second pressure pulse back through the structure. A hydraulic hammer strike from the inside. The aircraft does not explode. It comes apart structurally. This is what happened to the Cobras over Grenada. Not a clean detonation, not a hit to the engine, structural failure driven by fluid physics. And it happened at scale across every air war the 23mm was involved in. Operation Rolling Thunder, Vietnam, 1965 to 1968. More than 50% of USAF aircraft losses traced to fuel system failure, leaks, fires, and structural rupture from hydrodynamic ram. Desert Storm, 75%. Not missiles, not fragmentation hits. The fuel system every time. January 18, 1991. An F-4G Wild Weasel takes a single 23mm round through the fuel tank over Iraq. No explosion, no crew hit. The tank empties. Both pilots eject safely. 1 round, no detonation, aircraft destroyed. Modern fighters carry fuel in wing-integrated tanks that are also primary structural members. A hydrodynamic ram event in a wing root is not a leak. it is a structural failure event. 3. The quiet hit. The API-T round does not detonate on contact with light alloy airframe skin, it passes straight through. At 186 grams and 970 meters per second, the energy transferred to anything in its path, a control actuator, a hydraulic line, a tail rotor gearbox, exceeds the structural limit of virtually any component in a light airframe. The aircraft loses function, the crew sees nothing until something stops responding. Grenada, 1983. The AH-1T Cobra was an attack helicopter, armor protection, plating around the pilot seats and nothing else, as Major Thomas Kovacs wrote in a 1993 Marine Corps assessment. The powerful engines are not separated by a ballistic-resistant wall, which means that a catastrophic failure of one will probably result in failure of the other. On the fifth attack run, Captain Tim Howard's Cobra absorbed 3 rounds. Howard's arm was destroyed. Captain Jeb Siegel tied a tourniquet from an intercom cord after pulling Howard from the wreck. Siegel was then captured and executed. The second Cobra, Captain John Guguerre, and First Lieutenant Jeffrey Sharver, was hit on the covering pass. Both Marines were killed. The same battery also downed an MH-60 Blackhawk and damaged 5 more. 45 men, 4 guns, no radar. If you want more of these, subscribe. Now for the limitation the Soviet designers never fully solved. The ZU-23 was built for one target profile, slow movers, helicopters, and ground attack aircraft making repeated low-altitude passes. Against those targets, there is very little escape route once the round is in the air. Against a fast jet, the problem inverts. A fighter at 500 knots presents a window under 2 seconds. The base hit probability of the original ZU-23 against a difficult low silhouette target was 2.3% per burst. Soviet engineers later upgraded the system to reach 30% through modernized fire control, a 10-fold improvement. But 2.3% is less forgiving than it sounds. At 33 rounds per second, any slow pass through the engagement envelope produces multiple statistical chances to absorb a round. And as the F-4G demonstrated, 1 round ends the mission. The gun's limitation is not lethality. It is reach. Brutally effective inside its envelope, nearly irrelevant outside it. The Western answer to the same problem was the 20mm M168 Vulcan. 6 barrels, up to 6,000 rounds per minute. The bet was that volume compensates for smaller rounds. Get enough steel in the air, and probability does the work. The problem, 20mm HE produces almost no effective fragments beyond 10 meters. Fragmentation lethality scales disproportionately with caliber. The Vulcan's rate of fire is extraordinary, but each individual round is an order of magnitude less consequential on contact than a 23mm HEI. The Soviet bet went the other way. Slower rate of fire, 2,000 rounds per minute combined, but a round large enough that when it arrives, the aircraft is unlikely to continue flying. Not probability through volume, probability through consequence. 2 different answers to the same question. What do you optimize for when you cannot guarantee a hit? For armies operating on tight logistics, with aircraft making predictable attack runs at low altitude, consequence per round wins. The West bought precision and rate. The Soviets bought effect and simplicity. On the terrain this weapon was designed for, the simpler bet has proven persistently harder to argue against. In Ukraine, ZU-23-2 guns on trucks are intercepting Russian Shahed 136 kamikaze drones in their terminal approach phase. Low altitude, slow speed, predictable path. The exact target profile the weapon was built for in 1957. By March 2024, Russia had formed dedicated ZU-23-2 mobile anti-drone units within its own combined arms armies. Both sides deploying the same 60-year-old gun against the defining weapon of this war. Here is the number that explains why. A Shahed 136 costs roughly $20,000 to $50,000. A ZU-23 2-round costs under $2. The gun fires 33 of them per second. The physics that destroyed the Cobras over Grenada are the same physics destroying drones over Ukraine. The target changed. The target happened to fit the envelope exactly. A 186-gram projectile, 87,000 joules. A fuel tank that becomes a pressure vessel with no designed failure mode. That is what the ZU-23 actually does to an aircraft. The engineers who built it in 1957 were solving a physics problem. They solved it well enough that 2 generations of pilots, and now drone operators on both sides of the same war, are still working around the answer. The battlefield has changed 3 times. The physics has not moved at all.